use during the election. That's why pay attention. If you lost something, you can see the record and pay attention to the question like that's one, this one. Just a minute. Browse it very slowly. Can you see it? Discussion why elections is so important for democracy. And I see Irina raise the hand. Please, your answer.
Yes, thank you. It's like opinion from in democracy society. It's like public opinion that we could get from the elections.
Thank you, Ivan.
It's important to provide the choice of the people, yes, and provide their thoughts about political environment in the country and situation. So that's why, or for example, to try something change, yes, and you need elected the new one of politician. For example, as time is changed, yes, some like a quizzly challenges, etc. That's why election important for democracy.
Thank you very much. And Valerie?
Yes, for me, it's the whole point of the democracy. I just think that the whole point of the democracy is to have a choice and to give choice to citizens of any country. So, and elections is the biggest example of democracy in a country.
Thank you. Sasha?
Yes, and I also want to add that for the democratic government, it's rather important sign of democracy that representatives which were chosen by the civils, by citizens, they should be representatives of the government, and that's why all of us should have a vote and right to elect and to choose our preferable persons, and that's a sign of democracy. So like choice of freedom and freedom of speech.
Thank you. And Stephanie?
Yeah, so maybe it's some kind of like stability. So each of the citizen know that he or she has a right and knows what they can like take from this life and from the government and from the whole world. Yeah, so you know that you were something probably.
Thank you very much. And I want to start the answer for this question from the reminding you that democracy have two forms. One of them is direct democracy, and the second is representative democracy. When we speak about the direct democracy, we can now realize it in a traditional form only on the local level, in the local societies, communities, and as the state direct democracy, it was established in ancient cities of Greece, for example, in Athens, in Athens, in Spartak, and other cities, policies of ancient Greece, when all citizens, all people gathered on the big squares in the center of the city and discuss some problem and give them, take a part in the decision making by shouting very loud and support for such method the ideas of one of the leaders. We can speak that such a method is not representable because one person can be much louder than a group sometimes, and the leader proposes the ideas. That's why the ancient thinkers, philosophers, they think that democracy is not a perfect political government, that it can be like a tyranny of mass which are not highly educated. And so for modern life, for in modern politics, we have a possibility to send our representatives to parliamentary institution, to other government institution, and for such methods, for such measures, influence on politics. And for summarize all your ideas, I can tell that the main function of election, the ranked function, find out the leader from the different groups and select them to some government representative institution, and then control them and take accountable for their performance in office. For such possibility, we can support or not support a leader for the next election, and if he have done all planned in political program, in electional program, we will support him for the next elections. If not, we will choose the other leader and give a possibility to them to rule. Also, as you say correctly, we can facilitate the expression of public opinion. I think you know that for direct form of democracy, it is possible to organize some referendum or plebiscite, which will be something like poll. What is the majority of people want to do in future, and how they can decide some problems. For example, in Switzerland, it's very often used the event of referendums when the person can answer the question about, I don't know, about the name of some territory, about the effectiveness of current policy, and so on. At the same time, the elections, it is organized often, and it established by the many rules and possibilities to make the process equal for everyone, and for make them create some ruled group who will make a decision always. I mean that we can organize referendum or plebiscite every day because the simple people who have other professions, they can let their jobs and only vote every day for some decisions. That's why there is a practice to find out the ideas in society, the public opinion once for 4 years or sometimes 5 years. Just a moment, only a few minutes for my answering call. Алло? Да, добрый. I'm sorry again. It's elections is like a pool when we support some not only leaders but also their political programs, their ideas, and Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. I'm very sorry, I have some problems with my connection, but I'll try to restart and to continue. About the expression, I hope you can hear me, that we vote and we support some political programs. That's why it's like a pool for public opinion. Next one. The elections is an act of legitimize the power and those persons who represent it. When we speak about the that elections was continue and by the all the rules by determining the main law details of this process, we should recognize and be ready to use the decision of the previous of the current political power. What does it mean? It means that even if not our candidate win the election, we will prepare for the next elections, not letting the power to anyone else, and we will know exactly who have a right to rule and to make decisions, because the majority of society supports the other person. I can give the answer of United States, which is very often have very little difference between the winner and the second place of voting. It's about a few percent as usual, but nobody tried to destroy, to re-establish the power of the president who is the winner, because they believe in justice and that all rules were have done during the election process. Also, the elections can help solve the conflicts in legislative way, because it's not a reason to fight and to criticize each other, because we are waiting for the next elections and present our ideas, try to use not violent and coercion, but we use some informational propaganda measures for explain the people what is the advantages of this political party, its leader, and for such reason we can speak that in democratic countries with free and equal elections, we have the possibility to struggle for the power in a legislative way and in some rational aspects, rational directions of fighting, not fighting in this in usual meaning of this word. And also, election can satisfy some needs for taking part in some important society actions. A person and all the humanity fight for the increasing for otherwise their right for take part in elections for ages, for many years, and as a result we can by taking part in elections be a member of society who also have important role and make decision for everyone, even if it's not the main role in this process. Each person give its own contribution for future of the state and ruling the government. And I can say that the results of elections mostly depend on their type of electoral system. And there are many different types of it. But the most popular is majority system, proportional system, and hybrid. Can you hear me? Because I can change the slide, and I'm pouring up that it's already again bad connection. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. About the majority system, this kind of electional system means that it will be only one winner and, after the end of elections. And it also have a few types, few different ways to account the results of the election. The first one is the single type of majority system, when the one person should, or one political party should have more than 50% of the vote. Only when it will be 51 or more, we have a winner. But if there are no winner who have such a good result, it should be a second round of election when the competition should be only between two winners from the first round. And plurality system means that a candidate need only pull more votes than any other opponent. Such system using in Canada, Great Britain, India, USA, and majority system, as you see in Austria, France, and in Ukraine for their presidential election. You know that we usually have 2 rounds of elections because nobody take in the first round the majority priority, and there is no winner because everyone take 20, 15, 30% of votes. And I can sign that plurality system is more simple, more quick, but at the same time, we can see that sometimes the person who have, for example, 20% of support is the winner because other is less. But if we summarize the results of all candidates, we can see that it will be 80%, for example. That's why it's not representative results. We have some asymmetry when we convert the votes to seats and offices of deputies. And about the proportional system, we can see that we can speak about the few or even many winners because this system requires that the distribution of seats should be proportional to the distribution of the popular vote. And each political party which have a support more than an electional barrier can be a representative in parliament or other representative committee institution. As you know, now Ukraine have a proportional system of voting to Verkhovna Rada, to our parliament, and for this reason, we have many representatives in this institute, not only one political party. I should mention that we have 5% of voting barrier, electional barrier, and those political parties which have less votes than 5%, their voices will be divided between winners. Why is the electoral barrier exist? We can say that it is the possibility to structurize the parliaments and give the possibility to the central political parties, not radical, take a part in competition and decision making. And if there is no barrier, it should be very atomic and multi-party structure of parliament, which won't let make decision effectively, because all the little group will provide its own ideas and give some potential to the to some integral consensus decisions. And can you explain what are the advantages and disadvantages of each electoral system? What is a plus for a majority system and what is the minus of it? And the same question for proportional system. I can mention that Ukraine try to use for its 30 years old history all the types and majority system and proportional and hybrid, and it's always a clear question what it should be and what is the better for Ukraine. Maybe you see some, hear some discussion, or maybe you can answer the question, what is the reason to establish majority or proportional system? Please, it's a question for you. Many processes we can influence on, but the electoral system, it's a simple law, not a constitution, not a primary law. It can be established by the half of parliament. It's very simple to change the elections rules. That's why the elite class can manipulate by the electoral system, change some details which will influence on the results. Who can explain why it is important to choose one or another electoral system? Thank you, Sasha, please.
Yes, I want to say about majority system. I think that the main pluses of this system is that it's very simple, because a person should choose one party and one candidate and only put a tick near its name, and it's really very simple. And next plus is that it's quick, because you put a tick, then everyone, not everyone, but special authorities calculate how many ticks have one or another party, and they just count the percentage, and it's very fast, I think, process. Maybe not very fast, but it's rather more quickly than in other way.
Yes, you are right. Anybody else? Any other reasons for advantages, disadvantages? I can add Sasha. They add. Oh, so Alexandra, please.
Yes, I would like to mention some disadvantages of majority electoral system. I think that they have the lack of representation. The majority electoral system is more comfortable for big parties, and that means that the smaller parties and the independent candidates are often marginalized. And also sometimes there's some wasted votes. And because votes for losing candidates do not count towards the election of representatives.
Thank you. Any other ideas? So again, both Sasha and Karikova and Kalinina was right that they, oh, Ivan, want to add, please?
Yes, I want to add that, of course, it has some disadvantages, yes, but for example, it gives the opportunity to people who was elected, yes, or something like doing in a political system, try to do more and effective, yes, to try to have like to achieve compromise with each other, yes, to that majority like was no, people who elected, it will be majority. So it like make you a master of political science, in my opinion. So because when a lot people can go to the politics, for example, like in our system, when you just got 5% to go to the Verkhovna Rada, it can each stupid politic some populistic advertisement in television, yes, and some people in villages can, oh, okay, you're right, yes, and elected him to the Verkhovna Rada. But if you build majority, da, for example, 2 parties, 3 parties, just yes, to and you try like to be effective, yes, and popularity, you try to work. So that's why it's important to understand.
Very good ideas. And Irina?
Yes, from my opinion, it's no advantages of the system majority. That's we have not so many forces, and it's easy to make changes. But if even if the force doesn't win, after a certain time, it will return and be able to continue its program. And disadvantages, it's like these forces need more contact with the public to win trust, and maybe it's very easy to lose this trust because of unsuccessful some period of time.
Thank you. You said everything. I have no addition, but I'll make a conclusion that for majority system, it is a very high possibility to create two-party system and to have the rule and responsibility for the decisions for only one political party or group. It's an advantage because we can analyze its politics and says that the results is achieved or not. And at the same time, it is a bit threat for not let the small political parties and group influence on politics and increase their participants because they have very little chance to take a participation in parliament or other representative institution. And about very good ideas about the corruption during the electoral process, when we have the example of Ukraine, the disadvantage for majority system was that it is easier to have the deputy's office because it's the candidate should take the support only in a very very small district or region, and it try to present everyone some I forget the word khabar, something like quanjis or other very cheap things which they give to some person and speak about that support me on the elections because I help with you with some oil, flour, with some product presents like the help for the people in some territory. And also in Ukrainian policy, it was a bad case because the majoritarian deputies vote on the parliament session as they want. They don't control it by any institution like political party, and they can sell their votes for some big groups. They can realize not the society interest, but a very small, a particular interest by some oligarch group and so on. That's why the proportional system for transformed countries looks like more democratic, because many political parties can take the part in parliament actions and can contribute some ideas to the general decision making. But at the same time, it is difficult to find out the consensus. That's why it usually created some coalition which will be ruled and make a decision in the parliamentary process. And for compare, for give from both of systems its advantages, exist also a hybrid system of electoral process. First type of mixing the systems is mixed member proportional, when the part of parliament elected by the proportional system and the other part by majority system. In Ukraine, such mixed member system exists when the a half of parliament were elected on the districts, and the second half in general electional district, and for this reason a part of parliament was representatives from different political parties, and the second one is a representative of a piece of territory. Such type of hybrid system also usually used in bicameral or two-cameral parliaments, or the federal states, when the majority system used for the representation of the subject of federation, and the other is the representatives of political parties. And additional member systems means that after having results of the elections by proportional system, those percents which we have after the electional barrier, we can divide between the candidates by the majority system to increase the representation to make all the seats complete, we can some persons elect by the majority system. And the next question is about electoral technologies. There are many technologies which used for the informational companies for creation the image and the political program of the candidate on elections. I can mention only a few technologies which are influence greatly on the results of election. Can you hear the definition gerrymandering? Do you know what is the technology of gerrymandering? It's a form of creating districts and territories for elections used to benefit the party that at a given time controls the process. The ruled party can cut the districts for such reason, for guarantee the priority for its political party on the next elections. That's why in many laws it is some duties to not change the classical form of dividing into districts, and it should be explained and argued like it's a part of administrative districts or something else. It's not possible nowadays to use this kind of technology. Also, we can mention different informational technologies which give opportunity to some groups who have more sources to provide its company more effectively. And also we have some limits for using money and for giving the for paying money from the one person. One person organization can pay more than under the law because it is forbidden to give more sources for one political group. And for this reason also exists a process of state financial support of the electoral process, when each political party, each candidate has the same the same number of sources, financial, the possibility to make some reports or some discussions on the media and so on, for give the equal possibilities, equal opportunities, and not let the financial groups influence on the result of elections. And in electoral process, using many forbidden things, and it looks like a crime. It can be punished by the policy officers or some groups who control the electoral process, but it still using in different countries. Even in Ukraine, we have some abuses which always take a place in electoral process. For example, it can be bribery or voter intimidation when we have some money, some present for voting. Also, it can be rumors and false campaign propaganda, which when we have false information about the person, about the leader of the political party or its possibilities, populist information we also can understand, like the rumors or a kind of manipulation, because some political parties promise the things which they can't provide into practice because they have no sources. When they promise to give us very high salaries, very high quality of life, they don't explain how to achieve some goals, and that's why they can be understood like a populist rhetoric. And also some abuses we can find in the process of voting, in the day of voting and counting the results. And it is many examples in Ukrainian electoral process when some additional ballots it appeared, for example, or when the voting at home for the persons who can move changes for some primary interests of one political party. And all of these things is the abuses of law, and they make the voting less democratic, and it should be created some high educated and good level of conscience for citizens who will save themselves from such abuses, because no policies sometimes the police officers, they can prove the fact of electoral abuses. For example, how to prove the idea that they can do in practice that things that they promise. We can only in future see that it was not true. And such manipulation influence the persons who have no ideas about the political process, about voting process, and who are less educated. For example, they can believe easier than the high educated person. And the last questions for today is the level of participation in elections. For not having much time, I can say that the highest level of participation in election always in totalitarian countries, because the power gives the weapons for pressure on person and obligate it to vote. It's no possibility to change. Do you want to go to elections or not? You can have some problems in the working place or in deciding some individual problems if you are not taking part in elections. That's why in, for example, Soviet Union, it was the 99% of presence on the elections, and almost everyone was in a voting place for give their voting, even when it was only one candidate and the person can't influence on the results at all. And in democratic countries, and for the last years, for the end of 20th century, the participation of election became less than for the previous time, and many persons, about 40%, for example, don't want to take part in elections. How do you think? What is the reason for absence in voting in elections? Why some persons don't want to vote and to take part in elections? You have a bit other question on your screens. The question is what regime influence on the highest election participation, but it almost the same. It can be compared with each other, my question and writing question. Please, Sasha, try to answer.
Yeah, I think that people mostly believe that their votes would be changed for others, so they don't believe in justice, and they just think, what will change if I vote, if in any case, in the result, we will have another result which will be beneficial for the person who did this change in voting. So I think people don't some people which who don't vote don't believe in justice at all.
Thank you. They think that I will change nothing. Yes, as usually
right.
from many Ukrainians, I hear the same idea that it's only wasting time. Elections is only wasting time, but not any changes. Any other ideas? Some thinkers speak about that the participation in elections increase when the situation is unstable, when it's some changes, when the person worried about the future policy, and for some crisis periods, the participation in election increase, like in Ukraine, when we were when we didn't like the current president, we have a good motivation to take part in voting to support another person. And for this reason, the early 90 years of 20th century in post-Soviet countries, the very high level of participation were existed, but in some developed country, when the situation is calm, is stable, many persons are not interested in politics at all, and they use the free time to have a hobby, to develop themselves, to work on their jobs and so on. So that means sometimes that the persons, the people see anything to change, and they don't want to change anything. For this reason, they let it be as usual and don't change anything at all, because they like the current representation, the current politicians, and for this reason they absent on elections. Ivan, please, you can comment.
No, I listened to the answers, you and Sasha, and I think that no, you talk about like non-stable. Yes, for example, in our country, post-Soviet country, where every election reduce the people's like participation. Yes, and about European countries. Yes, when it's stable and not interesting to participate. But I think the main problem that in general we have disciplinary society. What does it mean? When people give to different government. Yes, so for example, I talk about Europe and USA, most of Europe. Disciplinary society, when you give like you don't believe to the people. Yes, I mean that in every people more evil than peace. Yes, and good things. That's why like a lot of policemen, etc. So if the philosophy in people, like in the world, to change, yes, that people in the people more good things than evil, yes, people try to like to be uniqueness and understand that they like to can do something, invent, etc. So people would be believe each other. Yes, don't think about safe. Yes, yeah, they're thinking about art, about invention. Yes, something I heard it from Aristovich about the fifth project, when like this principle, when like people like the main thing is that in people more good things than bad, and in this society like people participate in everything, in structure, in the government, in arts, in science, etc. Yes, it's something like similar like in Switzerland or some Scandinavian country, for example, Norway, where like government try to have experiment with it. So it's a more global problem. about participation people than we see like things. And the problem in Europe, in post-Soviet countries, China, and different Asian countries, yes, because peoples want like a safe after the two World War. Yes, you don't think about some invention in a majority people. Yes, some uniqueness people go to the science, they try to something invent, to something do, but it's not the majority. By the way, if we look at the world before the first World War, yes, and we understand how deeply was jump in science. Yes, for example, if you born if you was born in 19th 18th century, yes, after 30 years you see like something that